Hey gang, it's me, Dr. Steve, your back porch professor. I hope you're all having a wonderful start to your week. But once again, I can tell you who definitely is not. And that, of course, is the swamp rat par excellence, John Bolton. We're now getting word on the specifics of what the FBI found in their raid of his Bethesda home in his D.C. office. Jesse Waters of Fox News is reporting that the searches, which lasted approximately 8 hours, involved finding evidence related to Bolton supposedly making a lot of money from overseas. And the concern, again, this is from Jesse Waters, the concern is that Bolton may have been trafficking in intelligence. Now, it's important to note that that accusation is yet to be corroborated by other sources, so we'll keep an eye on it. At this point, the investigation centers on two primary allegations. First and foremost, Bolton is being accused of transmitting classified national security documents to his wife and daughter via a private email server while working at the White House. So this alleged misconduct was reportedly detected back in 2020 through very specific intelligence capacity that revealed Bolton had transferred these materials from his White House desk prior to his dismissal in September 2019. So that's the first investigation. The second investigation involves whether Bolton improperly included classified information in his 2020 tell-all memoir, The Room Where It All Happened, which was meant to sabotage Trump's re-election. And the irony, of course, is it appears to have included at least 6 separate examples of leaking classified information, despite the fact that Bolton was explicitly instructed by the first Trump administration not to publish the book precisely because it posed a national security risk. Now, something has just happened over the last day or so that has a lot of people asking a question. It's actually a very serious one. Will Bolton end up going before a military tribunal if it turns out that he's being charged with treason? And the reason why this question is getting so much traction is because of a headline from NBC News, which was just published the other day. Military officers shifted to prosecute local DC crimes amid Trump takeover. It's a fascinating article detailing how the Trump administration is strategically deploying military prosecutors, JAG officers, to help prosecute DC crimes. So Attorney General for DC, Jeanine Pirro, she just announced that 20 Department of Defense military prosecutors will join her in her Washington, DC office. And many are saying that this signals a potentially transformative shift in how the Trump administration may be pursuing accountability for government officials. In other words, if and when corrupt government officials are charged, they could be facing JAG prosecutors. They would be facing military prosecutors. This is not a joke. This is very real. Now, to be fair, right now, the assignment of these JAG officers is to handle routine misdemeanors in the context of Trump federalizing law enforcement in DC. So we're talking basic stuff, right? Open container violations, loitering, minor infractions, very, very modest crimes. However, a number of commentators like attorney Jeff Childers see that this measured approach actually will extend far beyond just addressing petty crimes in the nation's capital. The key here is that JAG officers bring a fundamentally different prosecutorial philosophy to civilian law enforcement. So, for example, they're trained in a military culture where catch and release policies just simply don't exist. And so these prosecutors operate within a framework that prioritizes order, discipline, and accountability as non-negotiable principles. So Trump bringing these military prosecutors into the DC court system sends an unmistakable signal that the days of deferred prosecution deals and lenient plea arrangements are over. And what's so interesting here is that the legal framework for this deployment is unassailable, since DC operates as a federal zone rather than a state. Misdemeanors are already prosecuted by the U.S. Attorney's Office rather than local district attorneys. So this unique jurisdictional reality provides a constitutional foundation for potentially expanding JAG involvement beyond minor offenses, such as trying corrupt politicians and bureaucrats like Bolton. Make no mistake, the strategic positioning of military prosecutors within civilian federal courts creates several fascinating possibilities. For example, once embedded in the U.S. Attorney's Office, JAG officers and their military culture inevitably gets woven into the federal court system. And then there's a progressive scope where they first bring that military law and order to prosecuting jaywalkers, and then shoplifters, and then from shoplifters to carjackers, and then from carjackers to like shooters, and then eventually to high-ranking public officials, I should say. So while the current assignments for all the JAG officers right now are all focusing on conventional civilian cases, the very presence of military prosecutors embedded in civilian federal courts has sparked some serious speculation about potential military tribunals for government officials. Now, while such tribunals are legally complex and constitutionally questionable for civilian defendants, the symbolic presence of uniformed military officers in federal courtrooms sends powerful optics for Trump's accountability agenda. I mean, it's pretty astonishing stuff, and it fits right in with Trump giving a visual and visceral contrast between his law and order approach to real justice as over against the progressive liberal prosecutor policies in blue cities that have allowed crime to run rampant. But regardless, the fact that uniformed JAG officers are now interwoven in the DC court system does indeed raise the question as to whether John Bolton, with the seriousness of the reported charges that are being investigated, whether he will find himself before just such uniformed prosecutors. Time will tell, but if he does, poetic justice wouldn't even come close to describing it. So what do you think? Let me know in the comments section below. And as always, make sure you smack that bell and subscribe button for breaking news and analysis you're not going to hear anywhere else. Love you guys. God bless.